Welcome to this explainer. I want to kick things off by just pointing out a really cold, absolute fact about our daily digital lives. Our focus today is on the system that removes what you don't click. And the reality of the source material we're digging into, well, it's pretty precise and, honestly, a little unsettling. Think about it. You didn't actually scroll past that last piece of content. It was already gone before your eyes even registered it was there. Most things on your feed don't fail to capture your attention. They literally just never reach you in the first place.
So this brings us to a really fascinating question. What exactly are you choosing, right? We all kind of operate under this false mental model that we are the ones making active decisions. Like you open an app, you see a post, and you decide right then and there if it's worth your time. But what's really wild here is that by the time something actually reaches your thumb, the whole selection process, it's already over. You're not actually deciding what matters from a massive universe of options, not at all.
And this comparison really hits the nail on the head. On one side, we've got user perception, right? That's our comforting belief that we're actively selecting what matters. But on the other side, there's the system reality, which is that you merely receive what actually survived the filter. To put that into perspective, algorithms are discarding over 99% of potential content before it even has a chance to load. In our source material today, this hidden structural reality is called the director layer. It basically shows us that visibility is an inherent property of the content itself. No, visibility is just the result of what remained after some incredibly strict conditions were applied behind the scenes.
So before a single thing reaches you, it goes through this intense systemic gauntlet. First, it's reduced, then filtered. Third, it's ranked, and finally, presented. You see, most content doesn't actually fail in the traditional sense. It just vanishes. Why? Because existence in this digital reality is entirely conditional. That reduction step happens way before you even have a chance to perceive anything. Filtering defines your realm of possibility, and then ranking determines what you actually get exposed to.
Now, this structural filtering translates directly to the physical reality of your own body, specifically your thumb. The source material defines this concept as the gap. It's this unmeasured, totally unregistered space right between stopping and skipping. Just picture your thumb hovering a few millimeters above the glass on your phone. There's this tiny micro moment where its movement slows down just enough to erase content, and you never even made a conscious choice to do it.
Your thumb slowed down, but not enough to stop. I really want you to think about that for a second. Your finger just keeps moving, but something inside you already moved on. Nothing inside your brain said, hey, this matters. And crucially, nothing said this doesn't matter either. The content just passed right through that gap without leaving a single trace on your consciousness. Crazy, right?
So the really crucial point we arrive at here is this concept of non-selection. It's omission without evaluation. Because, ignoring something actually requires you to notice it first. But since there's absolutely no interruption in your scrolling flow, there isn't any actual rejection happening. You aren't actively pushing anything away. It's just an absence of access. You can't reject what you never truly evaluated in the first place.
When we look at these two layers side by side, a pretty stark reality emerges. Up in the visible layer, you just feel like you're moving fast, scrolling through endless options. To give you an idea of exactly how fast, the average person scrolls the equivalent height of the Eiffel Tower every single day, seriously. But down in the invisible director layer, the structural reality is that speed actually compresses exposure. Your scrolling speed completely prevents the very possibility of detection. Without sufficient time, your brain simply cannot evaluate, and what isn't evaluated cannot be selected.
No interruption. Let that thought hang for just a moment. If nothing slows you down, nothing is going to stand out. Without an actual interruption in your scrolling, there's no signal. And logically, without a signal, an event never actually occurs in your mind. The content didn't lose your attention, it just never really had the time to exist for you.
So how does this become our normal? Well, it's through the cycle of normalization, which is basically this continuous automation loop. You experience an unbroken flow, which makes movement your default state. And that consistency, it removes all friction. A frictionless environment completely eliminates your awareness of absence. Basically, repetition stabilizes your perception until this constant, massive loss of information just feels completely natural. You literally stop noticing what isn't there.
Now, we need to turn the analytical lens inward for a minute. What happens inside you? I want you to observe how your own internal thoughts and feelings are actually starting to follow the exact same systemic constraints as your social media feed. It's kind of wild, but the external system is actively reshaping your internal reality.
Just notice how the external perfectly matches the internal here. External scrolling, your thumb moving past content, operates exactly like your internal processing, which is your mind moving past forming thoughts. Like, a thought begins, maybe a feeling rises, and perhaps it's subtle and kind of hard to name. But before it can become a fully formed realization, you've already moved on. Without sustained attention, your internal signals just can't consolidate. Those subtle feelings and complex ideas, they remain completely unlived and unformed.
No one stops. Try this. The next time you're in an elevator or just standing in line somewhere, look at the social mirror around you. Don't look at the screens, look at the people. You're going to see the exact same synchronized posture, the exact same rhythm. Scroll, pause, continue. Absolutely no one stops long enough to mark anything. Things pass through their awareness and leave absolutely zero trace.
And this behavioral pattern leaves behind some very specific collateral damage. Just compare the erased inputs to your actual user experience. Conversations around you, not heard. Details in your environment, not seen. Your very own internal thoughts, not finished. And I really want to emphasize here, these moments weren't intentionally hidden from you, and they definitely weren't forcefully taken away. They were just never allowed the time to become real.
It didn't exist. And this right here is the ultimate paradigm shift of this explainer. We really have to dismantle this comforting belief we hold that our reality is built from what we actively choose. Because the cold, mechanical truth of the system is that your reality is simply what survives your movement. You don't build your reality from your choices. You build it from whatever manages to survive the gap.
Which leaves us with this final thought straight from our source material. The ideas are human. The narration is digital. The interpretation is yours. So, the next time you pick up your phone and start to swipe, you've got to ask yourself, are you consuming your feed, or is the feed consuming your capacity to choose? Thanks for checking out this explainer. I'll see you next time.